It is a kind of a hefty budget session today. We have quite a few to get through, so we're all here. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Well, I know my plan.
Page number,
Oh, well,
yeah, page
Well,
number
30.
40,
well, I was gonna, probably 37 in that budget handout,
oh, okay.
city review budget handout.
Are you giving
My-
us a handout, or did we already get it?
Oh,
It's
do
a s-
you need copies?
it's
They
the
were the
same-
ones we gave you a few weeks ago.
Oh, that's
Well,
probably at
we
home.
can put it up here.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as I have, I mean, I have the notebook just probably in my pile that's going.
Yeah, we'll probably jump around a little bit, but, I don't have a big fancy, never do, don't have a big fancy presentation.
So what page is that?
That's 37 in the hand,
37.
in the handout.
That's
Yeah.
not this, is it? No.
Our runs are on par to be the same as they were last year or a little higher. So we're doing, in our, depending on how the storm numbers come in, I think we're gonna be a little higher than we were last year. But we made it to every call during Snowmageddon, as everybody's calling it. I believe our numbers, our budget numbers are real close to what they were last year. My plan was to give a little bit of money back in some of my accounts this year, but with Snowmageddon, I still think I'm gonna give a few dollars back, but it's not as big as it was, just because of the snowstorm. But that's the plan, and I think, if I remember correctly, we pretty much held everything the same as last year. So,
And one other difference is that the contract increases
right,
than we anticipated this year.
yeah, with the award, the arbitration award was not
5.75.
favorable to the city. It was 5.75 for retroactive to the first of 2024, and then 3.25 for 2025. So, in that aspect, yeah, we're not the same. But,
I did have one question. Under the workers' comp insurance for the 2025, it's listed at like 188, but in the previous years we were around like 260. We don't have the 2024 numbers. That was just like that's a big drop where it was trending upwards in past budgets. And so I just didn't understand like why it trended down for this one.
Well, we're gonna have to check into that.
So that 40/20.
I mean, that's actual, isn't it? I mean,
Well,
because we're self-insured.
Right, it's an estimate per head count, so we're gonna have to look into that. It comes from the group insurance, estimates and the head count, so, I'll look,
Prior years, we did have estimates. This year, we were able to get with our broker and actually discuss these numbers. So in prior years, we did not do that.
Okay.
so yeah, hopefully this is more accurate.
Well, I'm gonna tell him Chuck got it, but
We'll give them a minute to get situated.
He's putting it back.
Yes.
thank you for making time for us today. I know you were wrapping up another meeting, so I appreciate you being here.
We're on page 46 of the budget.
So, I think the only thing that went up in our budget this year is our training budget. Went up by $8,000. And I don't expect that to stay up there, because we're transitioning a lot of our,
I thought you were saving money on that because of the Columbus deal.
we are, but we still have a lot of people from before the Columbus deal that have to complete their training. And the cost of training is, like everything else, going up.
And that shifts the burden of the cost of the training actually from overtime to the training budget.
Right.
Because we're paying Columbus to train the firefighters instead of our own people on overtime.
Yeah.
So you'll see
Yeah.
the savings in the overtime
Yeah,
budget.
80,000 cut there.
And you would
Everybody-
have seen it this year if it hadn't been for the snowstorm.
Everybody that didn't go to Columbus is still working through all of their steps and all of their training. So by the end of 2025, we won't have those, might have a couple, but most everyone will be through all of that stuff, and everybody will be going to Columbus. So we won't have that anymore. So I don't expect it to continue to rise. Our fleet is getting newer, which I'm hoping that our maintenance expenses will come down a little bit, but we're still running an aged fleet. We've got 2 years or a little less before the next new rig comes, and then probably 4 years before the next one. But we're still running 2 2003 trucks as frontline rigs, and then they'll go to the back line, and we'll have newer rigs in the front line. But there again, all of our backup rigs are gonna be 2003, so they're already 21 years old. They won't have the wear and tear on them that they do as frontline rigs, but they're still gonna be there. So, and as long as prices don't keep going up, like I said, I'm hoping that the 2026 budget, our maintenance costs have gone down. Everything else, like I said, everything else has stayed the same. I don't expect, there's, all of the other things up at the top there are things that I have no control over: the wages, the deferred comp, the tool allowance, the cost of gear and all that stuff. But I think we're holding our own in that aspect. Our runs, like I said, are gonna be the same should be the same but I should say they're not gonna be less than last year. They're probably gonna be more, but right around the same. There is, in this handout, there are pictures of our older rigs, of, what our fleet was and the age of them. This year in the budget, we did add a position, a second assistant chief, because Chief Purchase and I, the two of us, simply cannot keep up or move forward. This has been a problem for years, and it has caught up to us, and we're trying. But our run tables are old and need to be addressed desperately. Our EMS protocols need to be addressed. Our fire run protocols are old. We need to address that stuff. We're still doing it. I mean, we still make it to calls. We're holding an average of 4 minutes, which is what the standard is. So, and we're still getting everything done. But it's getting harder and harder and harder. And there's just no time between the two of us to move forward with everything that the fire department needs to keep up with the times, I guess, and to streamline our operations and make them more efficient. So that's the only addition
What efficiencies are you looking at?
Right now, we're running a lot of calls. I mean, if you look at the run, we're up about 3,000 runs a year since COVID. And the way our run tables are, we have rigs that are running farther than they should be because of all the changes in our response zones and stuff like that, and we have rigs that should be running harder. So we're running the wheels off some rigs more so than they should be. The other ones should be taking that load, so that it's evenly distributed. It makes more efficient times, and it's less wear and tear on one rig where the other one is not. It's just trying to even things out, make it more efficient and more timely. With the EMS crisis and all of the extra runs because there aren't any ambulances available, we're trying to adjust our EMS protocols as to what we go on and what we don't, and whether it's priority 1 or priority 2, so that there are some calls that maybe we just don't need to go on. We will go, if there's no ambulance, we're gonna go on call. We do go on calls we normally wouldn't, because there's no ambulance available and the people need help, so we're gonna go. But if there are ambulances available, we're still going on some calls that maybe we shouldn't anymore. Same with the fire protocols, and that a lot of that is with the fire is, are we sending too many rigs, or are we sending not enough rigs? What each type of call gets a certain response, whether it's one pumper, whether it's the closest company. The closest company could be the ladder truck, because it's a call they can handle because they don't need water or potentially need water because the ladder trucks don't have a water tank. On some of them, we send 2. Maybe we can adjust that to 1 instead of 2. We have.
Does any of that lead to cost efficiency for the city?
Yes. Well, less fuel. If we're only sending, we send 3 pumpers and a ladder to some, or 4 pumpers and a ladder, depending on the information we have. Anything we trim is less fuel, less wear and tear. And it's just
Less backfilling?
Less backfilling. Yeah, it's just makes good sense not to be wearing out our equipment and our people for things that we don't need to. The world's changing,
Right.
or it changed a couple of years ago. Let's put it that way.
Chief, how do you know, how are you communicated to that an ambulance is not available?
Dispatch lets us know that there's no ambulances. Because the 911 center also dispatches Emergicare. And actually, they dispatch all the ambulances in Erie County. And the way the ambulance system is, if you're an ambulance in Girard and there's no other ambulances anywhere, and there's a call in the city, that ambulance from Girard's coming to the city.
Wow.
And there's a good chance that Emergicare is not in the city, they're out in Corey, because there's no ambulances in Corey and there's a call. You have to go, if an ambulance is in service, it has to go where it's needed. Doesn't matter where that is, as long as it's in their response area, which is Erie County. So,
I do think that this raises something that we as a council should really be helping and be paying attention to, because the fire crisis that they're having just with, having to respond when there's no EMS, and the EMS crisis in response to other municipalities who are or are not contributing, there's going to create some type of vacuum and avoid that. Either police are going to, somebody has to show up. And so I think we should be more proactive in being involved in this, because it's ultimately going to fall back, if we're not cognizant, on the city. If other municipalities are setting standards or protocol before we do, it's got to go somewhere. And so for us to just be aware.
And that's
help
one
in
of the
that kind of
things that
thing.
we're trying to address with the type of calls that we're running on for EMS. A lot of them are social service type calls. We've developed, examined all the resources that we have available to us in Erie County, and we put lists on the fire trucks so that when they show up these calls that are really social service type calls, where the ambulance isn't coming because they don't have an ambulance, we're able to go there and just, instead of just telling the person, sorry, we can't help you, we're giving them referrals also. So that's, an efficiency is trying to decrease the frequent flyers that are calling when it's a social service type need.
But you have enough firefighters right now?
Yes. And you can always use more, but right, you know, we're doing, we're holding our own. And that, adjusting our EMS protocols is not just the city of Erie adjusting. Erie County 911 is part of a consortium of, I believe it's 7 counties. And if I want to change an EMS protocol, the whole consortium has to agree to it. So it's not just calling up and saying, listen, we're not going on this type of call, take it off our run table. Because they're all, a lot of calls are, it's difficulty breathing. That's a pretty broad range. So I can say, I want to take this type out of that group. So they'll adjust the whole group of difficulty breathing calls. I don't know how to explain it. So a lot of calls are lumped together.
You say 7 counties, like, well, we probably have Forest County in that list, but there's 6,000 people. There's probably not another city comparable to us, I presume, in that area.
No.
And then we're hamstrung on processes based on what all these podunk areas need.
Yeah, I mean, I believe when this all started, 911, you know, and everything, the whole state is divided up into these groups.
Yeah.
They sat down and wrote out the protocols. And it's not that it's impossible, but you have to go through the process of saying, I don't want to respond, I don't think we should be responding to this type of call. And they all have to agree to it. And I've talked to a lot of different chiefs, and they're like, yeah, I don't know why we go on that call. Well, because it's in there. And somebody has to take the time to go through the process to get it out.
That's one of those things where our city population's probably more than the bottom 3 or 4 counties combined. And then we're hamstrung by their decisions. That's always fun.
Yeah.
So, but that's, you're gonna go to the state to change that. So, we do have, 1 rig on order. It won't be here until the fall of '26. That's, we had a state grant that we used as a down payment because time was running out to spend that money on a rig. So that's ordered. We just got an LSA grant for $500,000 for a rescue pumper. So we're going to start working on specs for that. We probably won't order that till the end of next year. There's a lot of things we're looking at, the possibility, electric or hybrid fire trucks. There's a possibility, we're going to look into that and see if that's a possibility for us. It may not be, but we're going to take a hard look at that, and hopefully by the end of next year we have an idea what we're going to get, maybe a set of specs started so we can order that. But that'll be, once we do order it, it'll be 3 years before we see it. Who knows, maybe by the end of next year they'll have shortened the wait time, it'll only be 2.5 years, or it could be 3.5 or 4 years. The times have been fluctuating, so that's our plan there. We're working on Miller Brothers, trying to get that all moving. So hopefully, probably not 2025, but sometime in 2026, we should be moved into there and out of Marsh Street, because Marsh Street continues to deteriorate.
Yeah, big time.
So,
Now, the Miller Brothers has a flat roof, and then we had all that snow. Is there a problem with leaking in there? Has anyone checked that building out?
yes, we've checked it out, and there are a few problems, but nothing that, I guess, wasn't in the plan to be addressed. The whole complex was going to get a new roof as we develop it. So we would rather there aren't leaks, but it's not something that we didn't plan on. The whole complex was getting a new roof. So Guys have any questions for us?
No? I mean, your presentation is very easy to follow, and you're not asking for any new people, and you're not,
Well, we did ask for
well,
one.
one, but outside of that,
Yeah.
need for efficiency.
There's much better benefits to firefighters than administrative people.
Right.
And this isn't someone that's gonna be holding a hose in any house fires, right? Is there any reason to think that you might be better off or more cost efficient to address this position with an administrative position that would be, outside of the, what is it, Act 87 or whatever it is, the Act 89, the emergency benefits?
Act 111?
Maybe. What's the one that makes sure that you guys have strong pension benefits and can retire at a responsible age, given the challenges that you face in your job? Is that Act 111?
Act 111 is we can't strike, we have
No,
binding
that's-
arbitration, and there's Act 205 is a pension one. There's several
That's the
acts.
stressful one. I'll look it
I-
up later.
I
I think
don't
it's
know.
87 or 89, but the one that gives you guys better benefits for pensions and retirements. Is there any reason to think that this administrative position can be addressed outside of, emergency response type of qualifications?
Well, they would be on the same level as Chief Purchase and I. They're going to come from the fire service,
Okay.
because a lot of the responsibilities and a lot of the things they're going to do other things just than what I had said. So they need to come from the fire service to understand all that stuff.
Okay.
And
As someone that's not from the fire service, I don't understand it, so I'll take your word for it.
And it's not, they already have those benefits, so it's not somebody new coming and getting those benefits, it's somebody that already has them. So we're not adding to that.
So you're adding or promoting? I lost you, Chief.
Well, we would
First
promote.
you said add, then you said promote.
I think both.
So you're gonna.
We're
bring
going to
in
promote
somebody
from
at a
the
lower
inside.
level.
And then, what I guess I meant was, we're not going to add another spot in those pension benefits that isn't already there, because we're going to be promoting someone.
No confusion, that's all. I got you.
Um,
Good job.
Any other questions?
I don't think so. Anyone else have any questions? No? Thank you so much.
You're welcome, thank you.
I appreciate you coming to,
Thank you for
Show
everything
us
you
your
all
budget.
did during the snow crisis and the mechanics.
Yes.
yes, thank you for everything you have
A
done.
fire truck pulled up and did the fire hydrant across the street, and my husband and I, we just physically cannot do that. And no one in our neighborhood did it either, and
Yeah.
you guys did it.
We've been out, we're still out, because there's, 2,200 hydrants in the city? It takes a long time to shovel out 2,200. So we're still out there every day looking for them. We were hampered originally by the fact that I told the guys, you got to go out and do hydrants. Don't go down any street that you don't think, you're not sure you can get down. Because I don't need you, we had enough trucks stuck during the height of it going on calls. I don't need you getting stuck or sliding into a car to shovel a hydrant. So we're out in the areas that we can get to now, just because we don't know what we're gonna get Wednesday night and Thursday and Friday. And right now, everything's thawing, and Wednesday night into Thursday, it's supposed to drop into the low to mid-20s, so everything's gonna be a chunk of ice. So,
I know
it's-
it's not connected, but do you want a brief rundown of the happenings last week?
I mean, you can, if council would like to know, in case they're getting people reaching out to them.
yeah, I mean, Chief Purchase was at the Emergency Operations Center at the county for, 10 days?
Long time.
I was the boots on the ground here in the city. Communication was key, but there was a lot going on. We made it to every call that came in. Our guys had to walk a block or 2 blocks to get to calls, shovel their way in. They carried patients out a block or whatever to the ambulances, helped dig the ambulances out when they got stuck. A lot of our trucks, when they got stuck, they called and let us know that they were stuck so we could get help on the way. But then, you know, I don't want to say half the time, but almost half the time they were able to dig themselves out before so that they could get back in service. We had extra crews on for that reason. Calls took longer, trucks were getting stuck, and we were busy.
Did you have
So-
any injuries with
No.
your men, women?
One reported shoulder strain did not seek, there was one report of a shoulder strain that did not seek treatment as of yesterday.
It's fantastic.
So,
It's stretched appropriate.
but you can add to that of all the goings-on that you dealt with up there?
It was an amazing experience. My first time when acting in that role for disaster. There was a lot of moving parts that seemed that many of the county wasn't completely familiar with. A lot of it was funding. There was a lot of misunderstandings about funding.
There still are.
Still are. PEMA, the presentation we got initially from PEMA was there was a process to go through to apply for these resources that the city was badly in need of. We were needing tow trucks, we were needing plows, front loaders, we were needing a lot of equipment because our equipment was breaking. Simply couldn't manage the amount of heavy snow we had. They burned through a year's worth of chains. And as the only representative from the city that was at the EOC, I'm a firefighter, not a streets guy, and I'm trying to identify resources for their chains, the type of plow trucks that they're needing, the front loaders, and they have a really specific criteria when you request this equipment. And so going through the process, we'd get denied, and we'd have to go back through figuring out what the problem was. And at the end of the day, we were under the belief that there was $3 million worth of funding. So thankfully, we did not approve these extra resources to come in right away, because when PEMA denies them, then they send you to a contractor, says the contractor can meet your needs at this rate. Again, I don't know anything about rates and contracts and what things cost. We were told that they would likely pay for these things, but there was no guarantee. So we only called in one outside resource, and that was tow trucks, because we badly needed them. Everything else we waited on until clarification as to how they were getting paid, and then we found out we would likely not get any of that money. That $3 million was for the state to give to PennDOT and the Pennsylvania State Police. And now we still eventually got those resources, but they came from the state when the state was done with their obligation. They'd bring them into the city for a short period of time and then take them out, or they're planning to come to the city and then they'd take them back. So there was a lot of coordination that was being done on a multi-agency role. Very complicated.
Thank you.
We did make it through.
Yes, we did.
We worked together well in the city. I had my mechanics down to the municipal garage helping them over the weekend and the first of the week. If I had something they needed, we worked. We always have, but we continue to work when the time comes. We get the job done. That's what we're here for.
Did you happen to contact any of our state reps when you ran into the funding and payment?
We did not. I know that Renee was in contact with all of our representatives and some other contacts she had. The county executive was in contact with, the political side of it, looking for funding and looking for answers. Just tell us what it is. Don't say maybe. What is it? So, and I heard today at a meeting, in a task force meeting, that they're still working through some of the approval process for this disaster. So, maybe, still, possibly.
Let's just hope that whatever we're supposed to receive in the next couple of days, we're able to handle without any issues, because
Well,
at this
the
rate.
predictions are maybe, but what they're calling for snow, we can handle on a regular, we do on a regular basis. But there's also predictions that we're going to get very little because it's going to stay over the lake. Or, like everything else, the wind shifted, and instead of the 8 to 12 that we thought, we're getting 16 to 24. So I'm hoping for the staying out over the lake myself.
I think that after what we received a couple weeks ago, I think we're prepared for anything, but also we're just hoping for it to be over.
Yes.
6 to 12 inches and 40-mile-per-hour winds as of 3 o'clock this afternoon was the expectation.
Sounds light compared to what we were handling a couple weeks ago, so let's just hope for,
Unless those
you
winds
know.
blow it the wrong way.
Thanks,
So,
guys.
all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of your night.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
Page, Public Works budget, we'll begin on general fund, page 50 in your budget book. This would be the Office of the Director. And in this office, I believe the only notable change is line item 4043. Leanne and myself usually attend one educational or training event, seminar, conference per year. Historically, we noted that line item was zero, so we were asking for a $2,000 allocation for that training. And besides that, I don't believe there's anything in the director's office that is really different from last year. Oh, sorry.
Those are valuable.
Yes, yeah. We're both engineers, so we've gone to at least one conference usually, or training seminar every year for a long time, so we felt that I'd like to have that line item, something put in for that, so I believe that would cover us both to go to like one event, usually within the state of Pennsylvania, like a car trip, so. Any other questions on the, okay. We'll move right over to Bureau of Engineering, the next page. I think what I'll do here is just hit a couple highlights of each office, some projects that we accomplished in 2024, maybe a couple that we're going to look forward to in 2025. I won't go over all the dollar amounts unless council wants to hear all the, figures on those. I have most of them here. So Bureau of Engineering, we're continuing to work on the Police Department Central Operations Improvements Project, the Cockrell Bridge replacement, the downtown State Street streetscape. We currently awarded, I believe it's phase 3 of that project in the fall for just over $1 million, and that would cover the stretch from 2nd to 4th. That's a combination of CDBG and RACP funding, and then we're currently designing the final phase, which would take us from 4th Street up to North Park Row, and then that entire project would be done essentially from 12th down to 2nd. It's been a multi-year project that has been in development for a long time. A reconstruction on East Lake Road, that was an LSA grant that we received. That project's currently in design, $500,000 between East Avenue and Pennsylvania Avenue. 2024, we did curb ramps, about $500,000. It was a combination of ARP and CDBG funding. And then 3 ARP projects I'll mention that the Bureau of Engineering worked on in 2024. 2 pump station replacements for sewage lift, one at Chautauqua Boulevard at the foot of Chautauqua, and then the other one is Perry's Landing. Southeast Erie area stormwater improvements, that project's in preliminary design, and then the other one with ARP was West 8th Street sewer relining between Washington and Liberty. Those sewers were in really bad shape out there, and we were able to use the ARP money to reline those rather than digging them up. Good news as of late, we just got word that we received another LSA, the Commonwealth Financing Authority, for $750,000, and that would be for the West 8th Street roadway reconstruction between Raspberry and Liberty. Budget-wise for engineering, we have a lot going on in that office, and we're continue to be short-staffed in there. We are asking for a $50,000 professional service line item under 4041. A couple things to note there is, up until a couple years ago, we always had a two-man survey crew in the Bureau of Engineering. Those jobs were eliminated. This here would really help us with surveying services, that we can contract that out to a licensed surveyor. Also, just technical assistance with all these engineering projects. I won't go into a lot of detail unless council wants to hear it, but we have a lot on our plate in that office, and there's a lot of specialized things that really we need to have outside assistance sometimes brought in on a consulting basis to help out.
Can he expand?
Yeah, I'd like some more detail on that. I mean, that's a pretty big jump,
Yeah.
so I'd like more detail.
Okay. Quite honestly on that one there, we get into a lot of structural things at times that we need structural engineers for. In particular, Miller Brothers Complex, we've identified some things up there that we're going to need some assistance on. That's going to be in addition to, the actual architectural services that we're currently going out for.
Did you accept a bid for that architectural services?
The RFPs are all in. We did some, we pared it down to 4 firms, and then we did some individual reviews, sit-downs with each one of those presentations that they gave us, and the final decision has not been made yet.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
And you're talking about just sustaining the building until we are able to remodel it?
That's correct. Yes.
I asked the question, why not? You went from 10 to 4, the interviews. What are you waiting for to pick somebody?
That's a good question. We were pretty close, really, up until the Thanksgiving and the snowstorm hit. We were honestly just trying to get everybody in the same room to hash through these 4, and then we were going to make a decision. But after the Thanksgiving and then into the snowstorm, we just haven't been able to reconvene on it. But I would expect that to happen pretty soon.
I heard that snowstorm caused that Dallas guy to fumble the ball yesterday, too. Wants to claim that.
Other than that, in the Bureau of Engineering, we did ask for a slightly larger increase for the project engineers this year. We're trying to remain competitive with salaries there. We've had a vacancy in that office for, about 1.5 years. So we did ask for a larger increase for that individual. Actually, they're
I'm
spread
actually
out
seeing a
through some different
decrease.
budgets.
Well, no, the last salary on that list.
The last
The last
salary,
one, okay.
the project engineer.
Gotcha, thank you.
Ideally, how many should we have in the offices there? And how many are?
Well, we're asking to maintain the complement. Now, these aren't all, there's let me see. Yeah, no change in complement of FTEs,
It's 5.
5. But I do see, unless council's is different, I believe there might be one error there. There should be does your book have casual labor?
56.
Yeah, it's in there, 56.5.
Oh, mine's cut off. So it's at 56.5's in there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't have that on
That's
mine.
your,
That, yeah, so that's reflected in that top number, 392. We have a part-time individual in that office that's been helping out, as, he's an engineer. So that's what that one there is.
How many would you like? Just one person or,
Well, ideally, we're trying to get back to full complement, so
Right.
we're actually down 2, 3? Is that what it is? Yeah,
that's what I thought you needed people.
well, we do, definitely.
Well, that's
And that's one of the
indicated in
asks.
the year-to-date number here. We're at 178. We're not going to hit our budget this year because we don't have half our staff.
Right.
Why is that a problem? Finding people to work?
The wage.
Or
It's the wages, it seems like the Northwest Pennsylvania is difficult for civil engineers, getting them to relocate to come here.
for this kind of money?
We've had a couple that had an issue with the 15-mile radius restriction. Seems like most of the luck we have are
That
with
doesn't
Erie'ites.
That's police and fire, isn't it?
No, it's all of them,
It's everybody.
All employees, all employees need to
unless
live
you want
in.
to change it.
Good thing we better not change it. Or even look at it.
So,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
yeah, we even talked to a few that weren't too far out, but they were obviously more than 15 miles, so.
I mean, in this job market, that's why the other unions were asking us for it. It was really only the police chief that had an issue. We could do it for everyone except for police, and I think everyone would be happy.
I'm open to having the conversation, we'll see, especially if we're having issues.
And that's back to Councilman Nelson's question about the 50,000, is really, if we cannot, it's a combination of lack of personnel right now, but if need be, we'd like to have that shift to professional services to hire the outside help we need. But I mentioned a couple examples, but it really could be any multitude of functions we might need some outside consulting help on.
Have we worked with apprentice type things with Gannon or Barron?
We have, yeah.
Did it help bring people in here? Sometimes if you get somebody in on a program, they stay.
Yeah, getting them to actually, after graduation, say, that's the challenge, is getting them to, a lot of times they leave or they go somewhere else.
Because now they have experience, so now they're worth more. Ironic.
Would it be possible just to get a clearer breakdown, just for the way my brain processes and works, of that 50,000, just like, kind of like what you shared tonight, so I could just kind of go back. It's 128,000 plus some change increase, to just like, for me to
Yes,
better wrap my head
absolutely.
around it. Thank you.
Yeah, we can, we'll work on something for that.
Are the curb ramps almost done in Erie?
Yes. Well, yes, as in, as in our requirement under the consent decree for what we termed the retroactive curb ramps that we had to do as part of the consent decree by the court. As we pave new streets, we end up with new curb ramp triggers. So it is ongoing. It's kind of a yes and no answer. So we've done those ones, but every year we still have new curb ramps that get triggered by paving that we then construct. So there's a lot more out there to do. Any other questions on that office?
I'm pretty sure that as long as you get us the breakdown for the 50,000, everyone's gonna be content. We just wanna see where the money's gonna be spent.
Yes, absolutely. Over to traffic, page 52. I'll just hit a couple highlights here for council. We have 3 signal replacement projects, French Street, State Street, and 18th Street. It's a combination of funding between Greenlight Go, Liquid Fuels, LSA, multimodals, plus some city match in there. Total cost is about $5.2 million. We have a downtown Erie active transportation project that's TASA funded for $425,000. Safe routes to schools and parks, it's another TASA at $1.4 million. And then, and by the way, that stands for Transportation Alternatives Set Aside, abbreviated as TASA. And then APS buttons and controllers, that's an Arley grant, automated red lights enforcement, okay, for $393,000.
Is that the one where they can ticket you from the automation? That they're doing in different parts?
It's Philadelphia uses that.
Yeah.
So the funds that they get from those tickets are distributed through the state.
Everybody,
Those aren't allowed in third-class city yet.
not us. My question, thank you.
Budgetarily, I believe the only, I don't know if we really have any changes in there. FTEs remain the same at 5. What was that? Oh, communications actually went from 10 to, that's a good point, 10,000 down to 2,000.
Why was that?
Do you know why that was?
Sure, it's not just an added zero?
in there.
Do you have any recollection of why that?
We were using those to pay for the
They
phones
threw
and
phones
iPads
up.
and everything,
And it ended up being, oh, for the one time.
one time.
Okay, yeah, that was the technology as part of the stamp project.
Yes.
So that dropped down to 2 to fund it going forward.
So you're gonna spend the rest of that 10,000, because so far you're only spending 800 of it.
Is that coming
Last
through by the end of the year?
Yeah,
Last
just,
council we passed the.
those just went on
That's
the general?
Yeah. That's
the
council.
stamp devices.
We just bought, they just came in yesterday.
The repair maintenance, so 4035 at 4056. That's, because I'm just like, when in the description, it just sounds like it's just saying the same thing over. How are they different?
I'm sorry, what were they?
So 4035, so the repair maintenance supplies, and then, okay, no, it's the service. I see.
56 is a
I answered my own
service.
question once I said the words out loud.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
I went right to the description instead of just reading the.
Right, that one's easy.
Okay. Bureau of Streets, page 53 of your budget book. That's a just very busy bureau. I'll just hit quickly on that one. Paving for the 2024 construction season. We had a CDBG contract project. We had a liquid fuels contract project. And then we had Bureau of Streets doing all their in-house paving with our forces. That was divided up into a couple sections, basically Bureau of Streets within CDBG and then Bureau of Streets in the outlying non-CDBG areas, with a grand total this year of almost $2.5 million for that office. The budget there, small increase in 4024 tool allowance and uniform benefits. You can see we were over budget there a little bit, the end of October. It's all contractual. So we bumped that to 17, and then again, we did bump education and training. I think we did that when we did the sewer budget as well. We asked for a little more. And this one, we bumped it up a little bit to 3,000. You can see we were also over the budget of $600 as of the end of October. I believe that was really the only changes in Bureau of Streets.
What's your biggest challenge going forward, Jason?
Biggest challenge moving forward?
What do
Well,
we need?
I'm sorry?
What do we need, what don't we have, type of thing?
Well, I mean, the current snow event obviously showed, you know, a big help that we had with the Bureau of Streets is we brought in those, all those 7 to 8 grader crews that were working around the clock. But that's not something we would go out and purchase. I don't believe there's all those road graders. So luckily we were able to get those from contractors, PennDOT. What was a big help was an icebreaker that we purchased a few years ago. That piece of equipment mounted on a loader really was pretty remarkable. So I would like to explore maybe whether a couple more of those would be helpful. The road graders were invaluable, but those were kind of really a one-off brought in for this event because we really just had to scrape off that
Ice,
layer that
yeah.
everybody was driving over. A foot thick and some places more.
Yeah, you get about 10 miles an hour going up Liberty Cherry.
Yeah.
And I want to tell you, these guys were working 24/7. They were taking a couple hours to take a nap, and they were,
Yeah, it was,
they went for, what, a week?
yes,
Solid.
Thanksgiving on.
Yeah.
Let's say that we didn't get the rain. Do we have any plan for where that snow goes? Do we use fields that aren't being used?
You mean to like actually truck?
To
Yeah.
remove it.
Because the sidewalks
Yeah.
is so dangerous when you're driving and you come up to an intersection and you can't see and you like go out with a prayer and you don't know what's going to happen. So I was just wondering if we can get rid of the snow somehow.
I don't honestly think that's possible on any type of large scale
They
operation.
used to do that in the old days.
I mean, I've
Park
seen
on Second
machines.
Wallace, used to
As
be
we used to,
12 feet high.
other than Bakersfield, all the
Yeah.
football fields, other than the stadium, but all the football fields, that's where it was constant.
Softball fields too, yeah.
Yep, 21st Street, open field.
And we've seen other municipalities that have machines that'll literally suck the snow up after it's plowed and put it in a dump truck and then remove it outward. I know that we say that some of our streets are too small and too narrow, but like we can push it to the main roads because right now we have an issue where once it gets to a point that you can't see, it's a dangerous hazard on top of the fact that we're asking people to shovel their sidewalks, which is next to impossible when we have this kind of amount of snow. So then we have big boulders on the edges of every corner and we can't see. So it's kind of like unsafe to continue on this way of, this is the way it is and this is the way that we do it. That's not a good enough response when we just experience a crisis to this magnitude. And when other municipalities such as, I think they showed Canada actually removing their snow, and they also showed other third-class areas that were showing us videos on TikTok that it is possible. So we need to look into, and hopefully there's grant money out there, especially after this natural disaster.
The problem with Erie is that it's Erie. And the places you're talking about, like Marquette, Michigan, and things like that, they get 10 feet at a time sometimes. So they have all that stuff. We haven't had, plow jockeys stop working for the last 2 years because they weren't needed. And now the wind's shifting the wrong way and we're in the tundra. So it's nobody's fault.
Yeah.
It's just a heck of a situation to be in. You guys are doing a great job.
Well, we'll cost something like that out.
I have to look into
Like
it.
too, in one of those places, it was the light fluffy stuff that they were picking up and blowing into those trucks. I don't know if it was that stuff. I'd like to see how those things work on this stuff together.
Well, I heard during the meetings, the emergency meetings, that this was heavier and deeper, and it was just, do you want to describe that? It's just more than our
Well, it was
equipment was
definitely a
able
heavy
to-
wet snow, absolutely.
We've never gotten a snow like this before.
1956. I was 10 years old. I remember it. Thanksgiving.
We got more
This
in
was worse.
2017,
Worse.
but this was worse.
This was worse.
That's because it was wet and heavy. The snow was wet and heavy.
Yeah, it was a wet, heavy snow.
The ground was still
And it was
warm.
like
So
essentially
that's what
first
happened.
snow.
You know, the top snow was light. 'cause you
Well,
went
it's
down.
scary too, when you can't
heavier and
walk,
heavier.
like your feet can't move to the next step that you're taking because you're in too much snow.
Stuck.
I was just going to suggest that one of their biggest problems is how to pay for street repairs.
Yeah.
Every year.
Every year, I mean, we have limited funding. We don't have it in a general funding stream, or there's no current bond issue for that, so essentially it's a combination of the CDBG and the liquid fuels is what we're running on for street paving. CDBG is a annual allocation that we apply for every year, typically in January. I think those is when we submit those. So you never really know for sure what you're gonna get,
That's the whole thing.
and then that has to be,
It's going down.
those monies have to be expended in the appropriate area.
Right.
And the liquid fuels money, is another one, so. But that's always a need to, I think, look at for the future is a recurring revenue stream to help fund street paving.
And we know we need it because we get reports all the time on how horrible the conditions of the roads are. And we continue to tell them that we don't necessarily have funds to pay for those, that we have to find the money and repair as we can. It's not a good enough answer half of the time when residents are upset, but it's what we're working with, unfortunately.
So if there aren't any other questions, do you want to move on to parks? We're going to try to get through all the way to refuse.
Do we need to hit paint? We can hit paint
Oh,
and sign
paint
real
and sign,
quick.
there you go.
That's on page 55.
Looks the same. Good job.
Okay. Any questions on paint and sign? If not, we'll just, I don't think there's anything change there.
I know
Okay.
the people on Green Garden are really upset because the bike paths are unplowed. Just a joke, never mind.
Okay. Municipal
Little levity never hurt anybody.
Municipal garage, code 719 on page 56. Couple things to note there. We'd have the two replacement refuse compactors did arrive in 2024. And then, if you look at your handout, real quick, if you want to, on, page 40, I'd like to report, there it is. We just added another client late, I believe it was last month. Mill Creek Township reached out to us about offering services for this. So we executed an agreement with them. Obviously, our needs come first, but I'd like to, council didn't know, I wanted to make sure that you were informed that they're now, would be number 15 on that list there. That office, we just have a couple increases there, 4035, and which is our supply account, and on our service account also 56. And those are just basically reflective of the costs that we incur in that office.
I was really impressed. Right before I got on council, I got bad information about the municipal garage and then jumped in and looked at all the numbers with good information. And that's a good, really good asset for our city.
The fact that
You
they
guys
can
did a
work
good job with
together.
that. Yeah, and I mean, that office in particular, we have 22 FTEs in there, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that these guys were working the two around the clock also, the whole time. They never quit from Thanksgiving
I can't remember
on.
off the top of my head what the numbers were, but when I looked at it my first year on council, I think it was like 40% of the work was done, for other municipalities, but like 42%. Like there's a small revenue spread that we get where there's 15 places sort of subsidized. It's just a very small percentage. So it works out well for our city, and they're available for our plows. Like that's really good.
Chains and plows, they were busy.
Yeah.
Yep. So, did a great job in there. Any questions on fleet and maintenance? We can move over to Bureau of Public Building Maintenance, 723 on the next page.
Page 58.
Yeah. Let's see here, we had a couple small increases there in office supplies operating. Okay, so I see here we have a increase, 4041, and this goes back to Tyler's question about the explanation on professional services and engineering. I'm going to do a detailed breakdown for council, but on line item 4041, I had put $75,000 in here for, specifically for Miller Brothers. So I'll take a look and compare that to the other 50,000 and just make sure that we're on par, or if we need to pare that down a little bit. But in particular here, there's a couple roof concerns up there that I wanted to have professional services to have those looked at by a structural engineer. One of them is that building on French Street that you might have seen that has openings in the roof. It's essentially falling in. I believe that roof needs to be looked at. And then also, if council remembers, there was a collapse out on State Street where the brick facade fell out. We did an emergency repair with that. And there's also some, we want to have that roof checked out as well. There's a couple other things in there that we want to have looked at. So that's the purpose of that line item, really, is for structural evaluations for our public building.
Jason, I'm glad we're looking at that. Why didn't we look at that before we made the purchase? I'm just a real estate broker, I don't know.
I can't.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
You
I
weren't
can't
involved in it, I guess. But that's something we better start looking at, because we're buying places with tons of material that we have to get rid of, asbestos, you name it. People are walking away from the thing, and we're holding, I know there was another game in town for Miller Brothers, but that's not the highest and best use for that property. And we did it because it was there, and it was the cheapest, supposedly. That goes another direction. I'm just saying, you're doing your job, and I commend you. I'm your liaison, so I'm just trying to bring these things out. As you're finding these things that we have to do. But they should have been found before we went forward with it. That's my point. How many more surprises are we gonna get before we get to where we're going? Not your fault again, Jason, I'm not saying that. I'm just telling you, it gets kind of tiresome.
You see, there is a note there under the communication budget that there was a $2,100 add-on. I think that's explained underneath the line item. That's why it goes from 25 up to 27.1. There's actually an explanation in there.
Could you explain 4059? So we've spent, there's a lot of budget of 260,000, it's been 81, asking for 260,000 again, which is double what was, well, more than double for 2023. Or we do have more expenses that we just haven't calculated in there yet?
I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Let me look.
It was 81 as of the end of October. That's our janitorial.
4059 and, what's the 723 or 7?
Yes, 723.
Well, we're over budget now.
I just signed some bills not too long ago for the janitorial service.
Yeah, that was a month ago when we put those numbers together.
Spent 180.
We've got a
$180,000 a month.
$260,000, we've got 80,000 that's encumbered,
Okay,
and we've spent, let's see, we spent about 100,000 in the last month.
For South Central.
South Central.
Do we have a line item for the janitorial services?
It's
They're
paid
in
out
here,
of,
in the other services, I believe.
paid out of 4059.
Yeah.
Yeah. No change in FTEs, which I believe is the case throughout all these budgets that I have. Anything?
You don't
Any-
use Chuck's Zisk anymore, right? Or do
Well,
you?
we actually did during the recent snow event.
Okay.
He had a consulting contract that essentially went through all of 2024.
Okay.
So he came in and helped out at the Bureau of Streets for several days there during the worst of the
Okay.
event.
You can still get like free consultation from him. You just have to know which dock he's at with his boat in the summer. Since he's mostly just hanging out on his boat nowadays and riding his bike.
Okay, now to parks. And
Did I fall asleep on the refuge when we talked about the garbage collection?
we didn't get
No,
no,
it's the last, it's at the end.
end of the book.
I'll wake you up for that part. We got some.
I'll mention a couple things about parks. We had the Ruby Shaw playground equipment and new fence installed there this year for $27,000. And then some new playground equipment that we ordered for Walzak. And that will not be in until a little later, and then that project would actually happen in 2025. Summer rec program was a big success up there for the Bureau of Parks again. We had JFK Center, Spoons Basketball, Footlights Theater, Westwood Racket Club, the Crime Victim Center, the YMCA Learn to Swim, and then the YMCA Kids Club. I could be forgetting one or two, but if I am, it's not intentional. I think I covered them all that I know of.
Golf lessons for kids, is that a summer rec?
Golf lessons at J.C. Martin for kids was another one out of summer rec. As far as the budget goes, had an increase in heat, light, power, and water. Rentals. That's essentially, a lot of that is the portable restrooms. Comes out of that one there, which, by the way, we had the eclipse, when that happened, we had a lot of the portable restrooms were put out a month early, but there was actually a reimbursement that we received on those from
There was a grant?
Visit Erie, or what was I can't recall what the.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
remember, but you did.
They did give us a reimbursement to help out with the cost of those.
And I would like to see the portable restrooms as much as possible, since we don't have public restrooms in some areas. So it's really needed, really needed.
So several of those went out. The eclipse was April, I should remember. this.
April 8th.
April 8th. And so a lot of them went out a month early for that event. In a lot of the key parks especially where they were sort of encouraging people to gather for the viewing. The other change here, machinery equipment, 4078. We actually used this line item in 2024 to buy a couple of Exmark mowers. They were not in there, but we did a shift from another line item to purchase those two mowers. We decided to go ahead and leave that 4078 in the budget. In 2025, Parks is in need of a brush hog. So, actually you can see there, the $30,000, that was the cost of those two mowers. And we decided to go ahead and leave the 4078 account in Parks, budget for $10,000, which I believe is the estimate that we received on that piece of equipment that we'd like to have in 2025. And actually, it's listed under there. Actually, yeah, it calls it out as brush hog, so that's what that's for.
Do we need more of those lawnmowers and
Exmarks?
things like that?
Like the Exmark mowers?
Because maybe it would help out with, like the blighted properties too. Can we use them for that?
Well, the redevelopment authority does mowing at a lot of those properties that are owned by them. We wouldn't have the resources in Parks, the manpower to undertake that mowing, I think is the concern. We do have contract mowing that we do with Yardmaster that occurs every summer as well, so. I believe those two mowers that we received this year kind of put us a pretty good footing on that for now. It's really a combination of the equipment, but also we're kind of where we are with we can't really take more on because of the manpower in the parks. It's a pretty light office there. I believe we only have, I believe it's 7 Teamsters in Parks. Yeah. So it runs pretty lean. There's some other various people that are budgeted in there, but I believe there's only 7 Teamsters. So there's nothing else with Parks. We'd do Shade Tree on page 62. The only change that you'll see here is historically we've budgeted $75,000, or at least in 2024, under the 56 account. We did split that off into a supply account and a service account because there are landscaping supplies that Sarah purchases throughout the year. And so we split that off so we'd have more of a supply service, which is reflective of all the other budgets that we typically see. But no change in the bottom line there. You can see we're holding our own.
Did we give her a raise? Because everyone else seems to be getting raises.
She was,
How much, Sarah?
she was, but one of the other few that we had, well, in Public Works, we don't, I believe it was the standard was 2.5% for non-bargaining. But Sarah did get an additional increase. I'm looking for where she's not actually budgeted. She's in refuse and sewer. So we could talk about that when we get to Or we could, I guess, look it up. Do you remember what that amount was for her?
With the increased amount?
Yeah.
Do you have that written down?
I made a lot of folks happy with those recycling bins.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice job.
But she goes out and she talks to the citizens, which
Oh, yeah.
is really wonderful.
She's a big hand in a lot of things, recycling grants, cost savings, the solar panels that were placed on Central Fire Station, the tire recycling event day that's held every May, a lot of the grants, but also all the grant paperwork and the back end reporting on those grants, the closeouts on them. Arborist. She wears a lot of hats.
Just under 5,000.
Okay, yeah, Lisa had the number there. You'll see that increase reflected in the refuse and recycling budget.
Looks like she got a pay cut in the sewer budget.
I have a feeling that's a direct honor.
Yeah?
Her rates,
2024 was probably a direct honor.
Okay. I think we're ready for proprietary, unless I skipped one there. So
yep, you got it.
we're on to proprietary,
71.
so that we're gonna have three. We're gonna have stormwater to talk about, refuse, and golf. So we'll go ahead and start with, I think stormwater's first. It's gonna be on page 71. Couple highlights in that office in 2024, looking into 2025. Stream bank restoration projects. We have one at Roma Park that's currently in design on Cemetery Run. We have another one on Garrison Run that's located down by the wastewater treatment plant, also currently in design. Both of those projects have a combination of funding, Commonwealth Financing Authority, WRPP grant, which is Watershed Restoration and Protection Program. They gave us $2,000 apiece for each of those projects, and then the one project, the second one I spoke of down at the treatment plant, has a ARPA grant, H2O, for about $320,000 kicked in on that one. Our stormwater budget is set to contribute $50,000 to a stream bank restoration on Cascade Creek. That project is actually being spearheaded by the PAC grant organization, but the city is a partner in it. And again, these projects all benefit our stormwater management requirements that we have for sediment reduction as part of the NPDES permit that we hold under our MS4 program. There was a litter trap installation down at the wastewater treatment plant that happened this year, and that was a EPA grant that we received in the amount of $360,000. And we got other projects in the works with stormwater. I think council is aware that there's some stormwater work needed as part of the Cockrell Bridge, and that was part of the funding for that project. In the stormwater fund, we have, I don't know if council has any questions there on any of the allocations. It's a new fund, you know. I think we're in year 2, 3.
This will be the
third year.
yeah.
Third year.
And as always, we're trying to build up the fund balance so that we've got a healthy fund balance, not only to work on preventative maintenance, but also to handle any emergencies that arise. If we hadn't had that ARP money when Garrison Run blew out,
Yeah.
something like this would have paid for it.
I do have one comment there under 4078. We have the $400,000 budget there. We are eyeing a street sweeper that we're in desperate need of, and also a contribution towards a mini excavator. Both pieces of equipment will definitely help our stormwater program. Street sweeper, I think, self-explanatory. And also the mini excavator to help clean out some drift catchers, litter booms, things like that. Any more questions on stormwater? Right now, we're still really benefiting of the ARP money we still have. Has been, like Lisa spoke of, we still have some of those funds left in that stormwater allocation out of ARP. So that's sustaining us really for now, but as that money gets spent out, this is a huge help because we're actually building up that cash reserve, because stormwater projects are very expensive. So when you do them, you expend a lot of money very quickly. So.
And they're running right now, okay, after the storm and the water?
The snowstorm?
Yeah.
The snowstorm? Well, yeah, I mean, we were kind of lucky with that rain event that it was, it wasn't a real hard downpour yesterday. It was manageable. So you had the snow melt. We were really making some contingency plans for flooding in order to dig some of those snowbanks out if we needed, so that the water could get into the drains. But turns out we had just enough melt, I think, Sunday to get us a little bit ahead of the game, and then when the rain came, it really wasn't too bad. We had some ponding on the roadway, but we were able to, the sewer crew really did a nice job there getting ahead of that. Okay. Refuse said, I didn't forget.
I know, I'm waiting. Leanna really woke
Is
me
that
up.
what's next? Okay.
I do have a question before you start, though. I asked this question a number of weeks ago. Have we seen a difference as far as our tonnage goes with the glass being pulled out of a lot of our dumping, so to speak?
Well, I have some numbers here.
I just understand that
I don't know if I have.
they might be expanding that. If they expand it, it might even save us more.
Okay, well, I'll start with that one then. I have, so right now, the Prism Glass recycling, the drop-off locations.
Right, yeah.
So there's three. The one I personally have used is the one up at Level Park Avenue, up by the zoo off of, at West 41st Street. And then there's a Boys and Girls Club, just so the public knows, at 1515 East Lake Road. And also there's a bin down just west of the Sloppy Duck. They have one down there. So as of October 31st, we had, with those three bins, we had 83 tons of glass. Now those are, it's a flat rate pickup. It's $70 every time that they come and take it. So really the cost of those, of the Prism, was only $3,080 for the city. That was again through the end of October. So I don't know if that exactly answers your question, but
Yeah, if that tonnage had gone into up on the hill.
right, it would be, and I'll talk about refuse, the rates here in a second. So,
20,000.
actually, I think, let's go ahead and jump it right into those. I think I had it, see if I had
Yeah,
anything
I'm
else
sorry, I
on.
didn't mean to.
Yeah, so, let's talk the tipping fees for waste. There was an increase in March from $55.90 a ton to $61.50 a ton. And I have latest numbers on that. I don't know if council wants to hear them, I'll say what they are, but otherwise. Large item pickup, that uses the same tipping fee rates as the regular refuse waste. So that would be currently at $61.50. And then recycling. There was an increase in the recycling rate also in March. 131 a ton, increased to 150 a ton. So those are our what we had in the beginning of 2024 and then where we're currently at now with that, I guess, first quarter increase that happened.
Yeah, let me just run those numbers out there then. So you said it was $3,000 for them to pick up the glass, or 3,100?
3,100.
You said that was 81 tons, and then
80,
we
yep.
would have been paying $50 a piece for those. So that's $4,000. We saved $1,000 with those glass bins. Is that right?
If it had gone to you're using the landfill rate.
Yeah, if it had gone to the landfill
Yeah.
instead, we're talking $1,000 total.
Per ton,
No, total.
1,000 total.
Yeah.
Maybe stuff takes the glass to the place, huh?
But we're getting penalized for recycling because that's the most expensive one.
Right.
It's labor intensive.
Correct.
It's not very valuable.
It is, actually.
But keep doing it. It's good for the environment.
I'm just curious how many residents know about those bins, because I know there's still a lot of people who just throw the stuff in the trash.
There is a page in the calendar.
Which
And
we
we
just
just
got
checked
today.
it for the, what's that?
Which we just got today.
Yeah, so there's a section in there that I believe lists the drop-off locations. I think it also mentions about going to the Prism Glass website, that they could go on there for maybe additional information on locations to drop off.
Plus, the Sacrament has a unit.
And
That's
we
not
just have
associated
the
with us.
city calendars in the
It would
lobby,
not
so
be-
people
would not
can
be a
pick those
city
up.
one.
Okay. Well, Bless Sacrament's on
They must
26
they
and
must
Greenville.
have their own, they must pay for that service. I'm not aware of us.
Parishioners drop them off there, there's bins there. That's why I was confused as to, if we're getting all this glass out, we should be saving more money. More than 1,000?
1,000, yeah.
My recycling bin is still under snow from Thanksgiving. I put it out and we haven't seen it since.
It's there somewhere.
Also, just to get the tonnages out of the way at one shot, I suppose, since we're talking numbers, our annual tire and electronics recycling event that happened on May 4th, we collected almost 32 ton of tires and 35 ton of electronics. Another successful event. It seems like it's very well received by the community.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, have we looked into possibly doing 2 a year versus the 1? Maybe one in the spring and one in the fall, that way?
That question has come up. I believe that event cost us provided I have all the numbers here, I believe it was about $23,000 to put that event on. Like everything else, it comes down to cost. I know it is a popular event.
I mean, ultimately, if we don't give our residents an avenue to get rid of it, they just abandon it in alleyways or in empty lots or abandoned, blighted properties. So it's like if we don't give them an option, then they're just gonna figure out where to put it, whether we like it or not, and we're still gonna have to pay for it. So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Tires is a problem.
yeah, I see a lot of abandoned ones all over the city.
Well, we could look at it.
Okay.
What was the tonnage
we have-
of the tires and the electronics again?
Excuse me, what was it?
What was the numbers for the?
31 and it was actually 31 and a half ton of tires and 34 and a half ton of electronics.
Was that the date of the fights?
May 4th?
Well, whatever date it was.
There were fights over that, and there were fights over the
Yeah,
bids. Yeah.
should have charged them for it.
See here. I'll just mention for everybody that the holiday tree collection is scheduled for Wednesday, for Christmas Day, Wednesday through Thursday, January 16th. And again, that information would have been printed in the calendar as well. Let's see. So I guess on to the details of refuse.
Is there
Let's
another
get something.
leaf pickup?
Leaf pickup?
Yeah, another one because of the one that was missing.
I guess, yeah, that last compost pickup got missed because of this snow event, so, if residents put the compost out there, I mean, we'll take it. I'm not sure, yeah, because it was 1 week shy, I believe, from what the schedule was. So there could very well be some leftover compost that folks have that they weren't able to get out because of the missed week, so.
They're saying this Sunday they're gonna take everything like normal, because first it started just garbage, and then
Well-
they added recycling.
Well, we haven't taken, we were back on regular schedule Sunday night.
Yeah.
Yeah, recycling and
Everything.
refuse, but it's roughly, what they tell me is pretty much double the volume, which is what everybody expects, because we missed a week, so.
Yeah, we was iglooed around my days.
So to jump into the budget then, line item 4007, there was that was just an error in last year's budget. We had to move $45,000. I believe council remembers that. We did that right out of the gate back in January. It was just a miss last year, so that number is reflected into 2025. That's for our shift differential wages. Small increase in tolls. Machinery equipment under 4078, we have a couple more compactors budgeted in there just to keep our fleet up to par. We got, the trucks are aging, so, they age out, and as they age out, they need to be replaced.
These aren't the electric ones, are they?
These are not the electric ones. That's correct. I believe that's all I had in that part. We can go over and talk FTEs. So on page 83 of your book, I believe council, we talked at the finance committee meeting back in August about an FTE adjustment increase. And so we'd added 2 individuals in that office. So the 2024 budgeted complement was 32.6. And we had added 2 individuals there. I believe they actually came on board in late August, following our finance committee meeting. And we're currently at 34.6. Those 2 individuals have been really outstanding. It's no surprise to us. They were great as part-time employees, and we were very happy to be able to bring them on full-time. We were appreciative the council cooperated with us to let that happen. They both worked out very well. What we've done here is asked for 2 more. There's a cost for everything. But I believe that there's it's the part-time refuse force that we use Several of them are very dedicated, reliable, dependable. But then on the other hand, it does bring issues with turnover, the no-call, no-shows, safety and injury issues that arise as you have sort of a transient workforce. Training issues, you have to invest in training the employees, and sometimes they don't stick around. We've had ones that, you know, show up and work. By the time you get them onboarded and trained, you know, they're gone. There's a lot of HR work that goes into it, you know, just in the hiring process, onboard them, and then there's, you know, there's also obviously terminations that happen. And then, just in general, I spoke more about this at the Finance Committee meeting back in August, but the HR limitations that you run into with part-time employees. We currently pay them $15 an hour for a carrier and $18 an hour for a driver. And they are, you know, I think council understands what I'm saying. When you have to keep them, there's some certain things you have to do to keep them, make sure they ensure that they stay at part-time status, because they do not receive benefits. They're not Teamsters.
You have any part-time people as drivers?
We do. Drivers and carriers.
Takes a lot of training to drive those things.
Yeah.
When I worked the front desk, I noticed the turnover was high. People were coming in and out from that department.
So it's just part of the ongoing mission of the bureaus to try to do the best we can with stability, having consistent crews. There's a lot of complaints that come in about missed pickups. So you hope that with full-time employees that, you know, you can lessen some of that, because they become familiar with the routes. They have more of a investment in your job with full-time status, I believe. So again, you know, it's an ask of council. We were appreciative of the 2 that we were able to add last year, and so we've asked for 2 more in the budget.
They would be picked from your on-call people, right?
That would be what we would hope, is that those employees would certainly apply. And there's like I mentioned, there's a certain portion of those employees that are very good. And,
oh, yeah.
You know, so I think we have a good pool there to choose from, if they would, you know, hope to put their application in.
They do a hell of a job, they really do.
So, and I believe those were the only FT, I think I misspoke earlier, I said there were no FT increases in Public Works, but there actually were, they were in refuse. I believe that was the only ones that we had.
So I'm resistant to this. It's directly related to our refuse fee increase. When he points out that it's $15 an hour, $18 an hour, 2,000 hours of work in a year, that works out to be $30,000 or $36,000 in cost. Your full-time employees with a $1.3 million basically between pension and group insurance total, divided by full-time equivalents, you're looking at about $35,000 in benefits alone. Just the benefits of a full-time employee is the entire wages and salary of a part-time hourly worker, plus the salary of $55,000. So if we don't move forward with the 4 full-time, but we're moving forward 2 of them. I mean, we're looking at a couple $100,000 right there. I also would love to see the environmentalists moved out of this. I'd put her in the general fund even more so. This is only paid by residents, whereas the general fund's paid by residents and commercial properties. Or even, as she's in the sewer fund, put her in the sewer fund entirely, because that's by residents, commercial properties, and tax-exempt businesses. The split of that, I think, is unnecessary and bad for our residents. I would rather see the part-time guys get a pay raise if you're
Yes.
struggling to maintain them. 15's still not a great wage. I think you can do this with like a 20 and 18 or something that you find more reasonable, talking to the administration and human resources. But I mean, tripling the cost, that's what we're looking at here when we talk budget and salary, you know, we talk benefits and salary. It's tripling the cost. See, if you came in here saying, hey, I'd like to pay him $40 an hour, we would all say, all right, that's crazy. But really, he's asking to change it to $45 an hour when you look at the entire compensation package. That's where you lose me on this. So I'd like to get rid of those two spots. And you never adjusted your seasonal wages. It's $9.55 last year. It's $9.55 this year. I think that's where you pay for your part-time wages.
It is.
So you reduced two full-time equivalents from your part-time workforce, but you never adjusted the wages for that. So I'd be fine leaving the wages there, or maybe even bumping that part up a little bit to associate with a raise that you find reasonable to help out your boys, your folks, and not doing these two full-time equivalents. This is our refuse increase. It's not the entire thing, but we can cut it back a little bit on this. It's the only spot we
I
have room
understand
to
what
cut
you're
it.
saying there, but I think historically you have to look at that. The garbage plant was the place where guys came in to come in. When I was in college 1,000 years ago, I worked side by side with people. When I got out of college, those guys that I was working with were cops. They were working in City Hall, they were all over. This was the induction point. It's not that easy anymore because there's not that much going on. So we're at the mercy of these guys working hard. And it's not an easy job. It's not an easy job.
It's no hill I'm going to die on, but this is the only
Yeah,
spot
I
we
know
have
what
to.
you're saying.
It's the only spot we have to cut back the refuse fee.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, I could find some spots, but that's weak.
Well, what if we analyze the seasonal wages and tell you how much our calculation is on what that would come down?
Like an alternative proposal on this, so that council has maybe two options to decide between. Keeping the
Okay.
two full-time equivalents we gave you a couple months ago. I'm not trying to pull anything back there. But I think it's worth considering not adding these two FTEs and maybe increasing the wages for the rest of the seasonals, so that we can keep that refuse fee from going up as much as what had been proposed. And I also would love to see the environmentalists not there. That's I think the worst spot for our residents to pay her. I'd put her literally anywhere else. I'd love to see her in the sewer entirely for all I care. We already justify half of her salary there, or 0.4% of it.
She has a very heavy hand in recycling, but we can certainly look at whether there's another place for her.
Anywhere
Well,
but refuse,
if we
that's the
put her in
worst
the-
spot for residents.
If we put her in the general fund, she ends up in the central service allocation, so maybe
That's fine.
that goes in, that gets charged to the refuse and the sewer and the stormwater.
Yeah, that'd still be
Yeah.
better.
It'd be a smaller percentage.
Yeah, whatever gets her as little, whatever gets the residents paying the least exposure to expenses. That's my preference.
Yeah, so she would be the conservative, she's the 0.6 up there.
And I'm nickel and diming you on that one. This isn't big.
That's a demanding job, though. Freezing in the winter, stinky hot in the summer, that's,
She's always
they're doing football player work, but they're not getting paid that much.
Or we just do the full refuse increase. That's the other option.
Right.
No
You
hills.
gotta
I'm gonna die
pay for
on
them
here.
somehow. But yeah, we would like to just see the comparison for the two, because I know like sometimes enticing your seasonal workers is giving them an increase in the wage, especially with the cost of everything going up recently. Most people are trying to find jobs over 15 an hour. So,
And that was increased a couple years ago. I think it was just 2 years ago, it went from 10
Yeah.
to 15.
Yeah.
Get that at McDonald's.
Yes.
depending on which McDonald's you're applying to,
But
yes.
you put in a couple years and you get a job with a $90,000 salary package. Like, I mean, that's always been the draw to these jobs.
That's what
It's-
I was
Yeah,
referring to earlier.
right. Nobody's ever working these jobs for the $15 an hour. They're working the job for the $55,000 salary with a pension.
Right.
Right.
You know, McDonald's doesn't have a step up
So
to
you
that.
bid into a job, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we increased it 2 years ago,
2
I
years ago.
believe, and then we implemented the tiers this year
Okay.
to pay the drivers more than the carriers.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did have that. That bump to 18 was done. I believe that was done this year.
This
Yeah.
year, yeah.
But we'll look at it and maybe it needs to be bumped again.
Yeah, if it needs bumped again, but the full-time equivalency, because pension and benefits are a huge burden to our city.
It's expensive.
That's a $35,000 package. So I would love to have another option here. Once again, I mean, it's whatever a majority of council feels about, but I personally would be a no on that.
Okay,
We'll look at it.
We'll get together
Get back to
and,
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sure. So, any more on refuse? If not, we can.
Good, I'm awake.
I don't mean. We got one more, I believe, at golf. So, golf fund is on, we'll go over to page 85.
Jason, it's just me. We made a profit this year, right? For the golf?
Our revenues are up.
Yep.
Our revenues are up. So what we have, the figures look like 760,000. And that was split 540 out of the Downing course and 220 out of the J.C. Martin course.
That's the only one, 220.
and currently, we are in the black as of the end of November. So there is a almost $45,000 surplus.
I just recall before I had been elected to council that it was always going back and forth on the fact that the golf course was costing us money. And then we did a change, and then now we're the third year in a row we've been successful in,
Yeah.
making sure.
We'd campaigned against each other 2 cycles in a row. 19, it was a nice issue because it was a loser for like 3-4 years in a row. COVID hit, people started golfing outside again, and then in 2021 we weren't able to talk about it because it was like, hey, we gotta get rid of golfing because we're making money on it. Whoops, never mind.
Now it pays for itself.
And now we might lose one of our golf places
No,
with the zoo.
it'll stay with us. It's way too soon to be talking about that. You're referring to the fact that the Zoo Authority and the Civic Center, your events, are talking about saving the zoo, which is something that we all have to talk about doing.
Right,
But not at the expense of a golf course
right.
or anything along those lines.
Or losing anything that
It's not for
benefits.
today's budget though, and you're
Yeah.
having more meetings about it.
Exactly.
As of right now, it's good. It's safe in city possession.
We're meeting in the morning again on that one.
With golf, I'll just say, I don't think there's anything noteworthy in the line items of the golf budget. I'll just have a couple items to mention. Is we had a 5% approximate increase in for the start of the 2024 season, and that was both the greens fees and the season passes. I think anybody here is a golfer that buys the season pass or plays there probably saw that we did have an increase back at the beginning of the season.
We get a lot of feedback once again for increase in fees. I can assure you that from 65 guys.
Is that who we made the profit off of this year?
Killed us.
I do get
Did a real nice job. with Jason.
comments on that, though.
It's a real nice job.
They'll be here.
I would like to see more programs with youth, because that's what built J.C. Martin over the years.
Yeah.
Ryan Bickle has been doing a really good job out there.
Definitely.
We also had successful continuation of the Glow Golf. And I believe I mentioned earlier when I talked about summer rec, when we did parks, that the youth clinic that was held.
Did you guys ever get the special permit license for containers for the golfing?
Do you know what that was?
Wait, from the liquor control board?
So you could sell some beer at
Oh,
Glow
no.
Golf? That never worked out this year?
No, because we didn't have a large enough space sitting area. There's certain criteria that you have to have. We looked into it.
Yeah, no, and I remember you looking into it, and obviously if it had come through, I probably would have gotten a phone call from someone to invite me in case anyone thinks I get complaints on that.
Have you ever heard of blind golf?
Oh,
No.
yeah, no, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Bill, when you get to the putting green, the hole is this big. And there's always someone there to guide them, from the tee. But once you get there, you got a gigantic cup. They have it out in California. I haven't been out there yet.
I thought this was leading to a joke, Mel. I really did. Waiting for the punchline.
And the only,
Get to the green.
oh, sorry.
That's my problem.
The only remaining public works is our liquid fuels fund. There's really nothing to talk about here, but it's reflected on page 86, 13 account, but I believe that's it for the walkthrough of the public works budget. If council has any questions or wants to go back and revisit something, we can do that.
I'm good.
Thank you so much, Jason, for presenting to us for the last 2 hours. We appreciate us doing all of the makeup that we missed last week. Now we know, what the ask is and what to prepare for the next couple of emails that will receive when you do the breakdown for the professional services. And I don't know if council had any other questions in regards to what was presented, but I'm pretty sure they all have your email address. So they will be in touch. I know Tyler is infamous for reaching out after the fact, so if you get an email.
The only thing else I'll mention, because I forgot, but on, I think council, I'll just mention it, the budget handout, page 46, has the refuse rate comparison. And so just so you can kind of see that in there. And they have us at, with the increase of 77, correct, Lisa?
Oh,
Yeah.
it's on.
77.70 quarterly.
Oh, we're just beating everybody.
Yeah, we're the lowest.
And then you can go down through and you can see the comparison there, and
Of different cities.
just something to keep in mind as we continue
And
to
the
go through
surrounding
the
areas that they're
reference.
paying.
81, 89, 100.
Lawrence Park has its beat, but. Yeah.
Lawrence Park's so small.
Thank you for the
Thank you.
comparison. It's always
The
great to
only-
Really
reflect.
appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
The only thing I wanted to mention was,
Callahan tells
I
me
think
that
somebody
we know
mentioned
each
that we keep
Oh,
undershooting our budget
We know
year
each
after
other.
year, and, kind of wondering whether we were padding it or not. And I always tell you that we're one storm away
He's the Iowa.
from
That's why I still
going
call it
over
college.
budget.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, I didn't.
yeah. And this is the year that we got to see it happen.
year.
Spinelli.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, everyone.
We're gonna
On
make our budget
Thursday,
this
the
year.
12th, we will be going over
like
to
it
City
better that way,
Council,
too.
the Clerk's Office, Development Services, and Code Enforcement. Thank you. Have a good night.